Hello, Martha Novak, and this is a show called Real Talk with Martha Novak. I'm uh, in the throes of allergy in the spring, so forgive me if I cough or go or drink tea, as I'm inclined to do, whether I have an allergy or not. Guys, I'm so glad to talk with you today. We are talking about authenticity. As soon as we finish the subject, we'll flip on to something like creativity or love, or gosh, I have quite the agenda ahead of me in 2 months of things to talk to you about. Um, I hope this week is going well for you. We have and we're all making our way through it. And so, anyway, I hope you're well, you're safe, you're happy, or certainly in the process of becoming. Let's do a prayer, and then we will launch into what we have to say today. Do realize this is a live show, so you may call in and talk to me at 425-292-4444. We already have a caller. I want you to know that this is the number that's going to get you on the air. If you don't want to be on the air and you just want to listen to the show, you can certainly get in through my website, which is Martha Novak, Novak. Hello, Karen. And yes, this is Mother's Day today. Happy Mother's Day to you too, my darling. And to everybody else out there as well. I tend not to think about holidays because I don't know when this show is going to be aired, but it is, if you're listening today, it is Mother's Day. Um, so let's do a prayer, get us all on the same page, and then we'll launch into material. As I said, this is a live show. If you want to talk with me, the number is 425. Get that number I already said. That's not a good number. The guest call-in number is 347-850-1647. Let me repeat. 347-850-1647. Now that's going to get you on the air, and we would love to have you be. If you don't want to be on the air and just want to listen, go to the website, marthanovak.com, and go onto radio shows, and you'll see a feed for Facebook Live or a feed for Blog Talk Radio. You can either listen or you can see me, however pixelated this is. And we will go forward from here. I'll get to this phone call in just a minute. Let me get to a prayer first, and then we'll go to the phone. That happens sometimes on Facebook Live. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Dear God, thank you so much for all that is. You who are all we are and all everything is in this world. We thank you so much. We open ourselves to see, hear, sense, and know what you would have us do as we open to the truth that lies in. We are very, very grateful for our moving through our lessons and through our progress. Hello, George, and hello, Kat. Good morning to all of you. We open now to the truth that lies in your enlightenment beyond what we think we know, that we may see what you have in store for us directly, that you are communicating with us directly all the time, and we listen to that. The you in us. Thank you so much, dear God. We say this prayer now, knowing these things are so, and if I need to be right about anything, we just are open in these 90 minutes to the information you would have us know. And so it is. So, guys, one other note. I cannot answer your questions or talk to you on the air. I don't call live during this. You may write me your comments, your questions, and I'm delighted about that. So by all means, write me on Facebook Live. But if you want to talk to me, you will have to do the guest call-in number, 347-850-1647. keep in mind that the only reason I'm saying that is we just had a caller on Facebook Live. I can't do that because it takes the video away from everyone. All right. 9 exchange. Let's see what we got here. Hello, this is Martha Novak. To whom am I speaking? Hello? Anyone there at 519? Okay, I guess not. So if it was you, call back. All right. We're talking about authenticity, and I've said before that I find articles that I find really interesting or I find awful. I try not to bring you the really awful ones, but I do find articles that have things to talk about. Sometimes I don't always agree to what they're saying because they're addressing different than I address. My addressing of you is always about consciousness. It's always about certainly healing and getting over ourselves, but to the ultimate end of higher consciousness, not just feeling better. Of course, that goes along with it. So many of the articles that are written on any subject that we talk about here are written from the point of view of making the general public feel better. Anybody who'd be interested in reading that, I think that's commendable. That's just lovely. I don't always think they have the precise language that we use for what we do. So there we are. I want to put that on the table. Case in point, there is an article by Chiki Davis. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Tchiki Davis. She's a PhD, so Dr. Davis, because I'm slaughtering her first name probably. And this is a case in point in that I agree with some of the things she says. I don't agree with all of them. For example, one of the things she says is, speak your truth. Guys, if there is something that is a burr under my saddle, it's that phrase, I hate speak my truth. Because speaking my truth always starts out and stays in the ego child's mind. That's something from the ego child's mind. And the whole thing's ridiculous because the ego child's mind doesn't know any truth. It just performs by rote and is mad and is all these other things. Well, is that really you in your authenticity? The answer is no, it isn't. So I don't like that phrase. And the higher self of you would never use, there's just no. You can either know what you know, you can share it one time, or you can not say it at all. Those are more or less the methodologies. But this hand in the air, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again, and having the radish, that's just not anything but the ego child's mind. So I run across something like this and I go, okay, well, I here in her next sentence is, when you speak your truth authentically, you show others that you are responsible, you can be trusted, and that you trust others enough to show your genuine vulnerable self. Well, it's lovely. You can't do it. Nobody can. Isn't that something? Nobody can. You do start off in the ego child's mind, and you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going, and keep going, and finally you're in your highest self, and that's the only place you're ever going to find your authenticity. Oh, you might make little adjustments along the way that help you cover up some of the things that you do. Usually, we have the same issues as adults that we did when we were a child, but we're better at covering them up. We learn to be more socially acceptable. But real authenticity, what we're really talking about here, comes from you being you. And that's 100% okay. And it's the place you start reinventing and creating and doing wonderful things from, because whoever you are, whatever your talents, gifts, and abilities are, and whatever you think they are at this time in your life, you've got a lot of discovering to do, because you're much more than you think you are. Not in an egotistic sense. When by the reach the highest self and you reach true authenticity, you could care less about doing it for ego, the ego child's mind's sake. What does the ego child's mind want? Validation, to be told they're wonderful, to be loved, all that stuff. When the truth is, the happiest life is one of service and one loves. Then, and only then, do you attract back what you are. By the way, you're attracting back what you are right now. And if you're not very happy with it, it doesn't mean that the world needs to change. That means that the world inside needs to change, you see? And that's why we do these shows, why we talk about these heavy-duty subjects that we do. Okay, so watch the sentence. I was talking to a client the other day who had heard this lecture before, right, about speaking her truth. And she started to say it. She stopped herself, which I thought was a good idea. All right. So Dr. Davis goes into authenticity, because I started with this article last week, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. One of her last points, we said, just to that we have to take it slow to develop a process. Nobody has a light switch turned on. Be conscious about something, you have to be conscious about it. In other words, you don't get to consciousness and deeper levels of consciousness unless you've gone through all the levels for you and all the ways that you try to deceive and fool yourself and everything else that human beings do, right? Okay. Now, here we go. So her next point is in how to maintain authenticity is make truth-telling a habit, telling the truth a habit. And she goes on to say, this is such a simple, makes a huge difference, and it's so easy to fall into a pattern of lying for convenience sake, to further some agenda, to cover up some embarrassment, to save face, I'll say to manipulate, to make yourself seem better or worse than you are. Guys, I want to say this, telling the truth comes over time, and it also not only comes over time, but it has everything to do with in this moment, and it also has to do with how much self-deception you feel you need. We are none of us in the ego child's mind honest with ourselves. We tend to sometimes live on the extremes. I'm the greatest thing in the world. I'm the bottom of a dirty bird cage. Where's the middle? None of these things are true. I've done other shows that give you a list of, well, if that isn't true, a statement that appears in your mind, what is true? And I've also said to you that in the early days, you don't know what the truth is. It's very hard to find. I've had advanced people that I've worked with on that exercise, and they can't tell me what the truth is. It isn't what is 180 degrees opposite the lie most of the time. It's somewhere in the middle, and they haven't been used to living there in the middle and seeing the abject truth. So it doesn't do you any good to say, oh, nobody will ever love me. No, that's not the truth. Neither one of those is the truth. Everybody is not going to love everybody, just the way it is. What is the truth? Just by way of example, the truth is, well, I'm lonely right now, and I very much like to have a partner. And I am going to be investigating everything in me to make me a better partner and to emphasize that and to get over any issues that would weaken a partnership. And I am dedicated to doing my part through God. Now, I'll buy that as the truth for you, if that is an issue of yours. So, we are not used to telling the abject truth, finding the abject truth, standing in that, and yet that's an integral part of your authenticity. You know, one of the things that I do is I tell the truth as best I can in my sessions with people. I do everything I can to tell them the truth. I'm not the only truth. They have their own truth. Everybody has a truth. That's why if you say, what is the truth? Well, it's relative, isn't it? It's a serious God. A definition. God is a infinite and ever-expanding set of truths. Ocean. If you're doing it right, we're always deepening in God. And in knowing God, we, of course, know ourselves. And in knowing ourselves, we also know God. I think that we all do the best we can with the truth. We have lied to ourselves to survive. And that is very important. So at one point, the self-deception has been really good for us because it has kept a child alive. But do you need it now? No. And where you're going in of consciousness, you cannot self-deceive in any way, shape, or form, or deceive others. So what happens when you come to me, I do not judge you for this. People accuse me of it. It's actually in their head because they're judging themselves. Isn't that a shame? Because this whole thing's just a process. I mean, I was, one of the reasons I can really spot self-deception is I was the queen of it at one time. We all are, aren't we? Or the king, whatever you identify with. Guys, we just have to reach that level where we're willing to honestly look at the truth of a situation, ourselves, other people. It's all part of this. And the interesting thing about manifestation, which is metaphysics at all, you want to manifest well, right? The interesting thing is it can only be done in reality, and reality is the truth, what the truth is. So it matters to you that you find out what the truth is. And the only way you do it is to identify your lies and figure out what the truth is beyond this way it is. Okay. It goes also into little white lies. She says, the more little white lies we tell, the less we are accepting our authentic self, a self that is flawed. By being our subconscious that our imperfections are acceptable, therefore we are acceptable. I think she's mixing a lot of thoughts in that. It isn't that I disagree, but I do disagree in one point. I think it isn't whether we are telling a white lie or not. Now, I agree, I don't think we ought to tell lies. I'll say that. That would be a nice, ideal world. I think sometimes a lie helps other people save face. And when it's done in a very pure motivation, I think that's the kind of thing to do. I mean, it's always nice to come up with a line that's neither the truth or a lie. I remember my grandmother was quite the character. I've got to tell you, she's long since been dead, but she was very, very funny. And so there was a story passed down in my family. This happened before I was born. Um, when she saw a friend out on the street with her baby carriage and her new baby, and my mother said, "Thanks, all babies are beautiful, but this baby really wasn't." And the only thing she could think of, because she was so dumbstruck, was, "My, that is a baby." So, so it's always nice when we can find a little line that doesn't commit us, and it becomes the "my, that is a baby" line. But sometimes we really are in a situation where we need uh, lie. Now, here's what I want to say to you. That's important. It's the motivation to lie that's important. It's why you're lying. If you are lying from the highest self in love and in helping someone save face, and it's not going to hurt anybody, and it's not doing anything, putting it on the table, um, then I don't have it of it, but it's true. And I just would not go to get something to manipulate, to make yourself seem more or less than you really are. You've got to be careful and know why you're doing things, right? You understand? Thank you. Okay. She goes on to say, make statements and decisions consciously. She says, in this hectic world, we're making decisions all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of these decisions are made hastily in the moment with no forethought. So slow down, make sure each of your decisions support your authentic self, and don't let anyone push you into making a consequential decision before you're ready. I do agree with this. I will take it into my arena, though, a little bit more. When you are in the moment of consciousness, there's certainly a deliberation about it. I mean, you know where you're coming from. You know you're coming from your highest self. You're doing the best you can. There aren't any subterfuges here. It's nice and clean, and in that, it's very deliberate. Okay. Um, I'll also say that we've been trained to, when one of our parents said, do so. And is that the smartest way? I don't think so. You see, all of us have different brains. I'm wired to words. I'm wired to reason. Other people, their logic is not my logic, which is linear. Okay, their logic is very and one other feeling, not one thought, like me. There are some people that are so nonverbal that they get information in and express through the physical body. You know, some of our great athletes are like that. I think of Rocky. You know, Sylvester Stallone. It was all about his body and expressing, getting information from here and expressing through the body. So, because we all have different brains and because we are differently, some of us think very quickly, and some of us are doing something else, getting information on different levels. For example, a feeler, somebody who really relates to emotional information, right, is going to be doing that first before they necessarily can get linear logical thought going. We all have everything, but we do it in different ways. If you all want to read more about this, go to my website. It's called the Learning Communication Sequence. So, That said, I always recommend to people this. If you are in business and has cornered you, for example, and asked, your video went away for a few minutes. We're back. Hello. Um, Guys, we are working on this speed even as we speak. We may have to, by the way, go to a different system, and I'll tell you more about that if we decide to take this, but we are looking at poor speed and it not being able to forms here. Okay, now going back to my subject. So always I recommend to people in business, in marriage, partnership, in any situation where someone is thinking you ought to come up with an answer right away, I suggest you're saying, well, I'll tell you what, let me think about that for a minute, and I'll get back to you by a reasonable time, a time where you have plenty of time to think and do your research on whatever it is that they're asking. There isn't anything that says you have to answer right away in the world. An idea from the old ego child's mind. You just don't have to come up with anything right away. But it's a very nice thing to do, to give them a time when you go and get back to them and to keep it. It makes everybody feel safe. And every relationship in the world, no matter what it is, will improve if everybody feels safe, right? And of course, that helps you feel safe too, because if you're put on the spot to answer, and that's not. But sometimes, because of old issues from my childhood, should. There's that should again. Oh, I hate that word too. I'm just giving you my list of unfavorite words today, aren't I? Well, anyway, no, but throw should in the garbage, because no, you just need to say, do I have the answer? You need to ask yourself, no, I do not. I'll find that out for you. Let me think about that. I'll get that answer for you by 2 o'clock today. Okay? All right. Her next point is, speak your truth. We've already done that one. Let's throw that out. Her next point after speak your truth is develop yourself in authentic ways. She says, I can't tell you how many times I've been given advice on how to advance in my career that is not suited to my authentic self. And whenever I follow this advice, I get lost. Your goal. Glasses today. I have lost them. If you find them, let me know. Your goals may fail to fit the typical upward trajectory or career ladder often promoted by society. So, as you pursue your goals, pause to ask yourself, are you pursuing the right goal in the right way for you? If not, you're likely to have a hard time enjoying either the process or the outcome. Basically, I agree. She makes it sound so pat, and I will say that we learn about ourselves throughout our lives. Throughout our lives. It takes things like, we've been in the coronavirus thing, right? It's beginning to open up right now. I think we had little tiny revelations here and there about ourselves during this experience. I thought of one the other day. I've forgotten it now. Obviously, I'm not supposed to say it. It was a little thing. It wouldn't mean anything to you. But I'm telling myself all these years I preferred this, when the truth is I prefer that. We are always going to be learning something about ourselves as life comes in and with its that's the way it should be. About ourselves, all sorts of things. So when we say ways, yes, I think those are very important things to have our minds open to. Who doesn't get those messages? Somebody who is the closed system and doesn't receive information. You see? I think it becomes very important for you to stay open and reinvent. And not only reinvent, but and see what you are and who you are now. But again, it doesn't just happen. I think one of the things that, as she talks about your possibly not going up the upward trajectory like society tells you to, or a coach might, I think it's really important to be discerning about this because, for example, I talked to a woman the other day, everything she can to people please, conflict. And when she's a little, she turns into a little girl when she has to going on and off like it is. I'm on Facebook Live. Let me say that again. That's not the way to reach me. If you want to, I am my guest call-in number. You will be on the air. Is 347-850-1647. But I do not answer phone calls on Facebook Live for this very reason. Facebook Live goes down. Okay, so I can't do that. Okay. So I was talking about this client who is a people pleaser, and she doesn't handle conflict well. So if something conflict looms, she's going to give in. She's going to give away way too much. She just doesn't want any conflict. That's not a grown-up way to handle anything. You see? We need to be able to handle conflict. We need to be able to get angry when it's important to get angry and somebody stepped over the line. Get back over that line. But we can actually get angry and have all that from the highest self. Do you understand? But your childhood issues, this fear of conflict, this, oh, I can't do, and the even the overexpression of anger because so much has been stuffed in your cells, all of it needs to be balanced now. And one needs to learn how to be emotionally mature, right? And how my 519 exchange has popped up again, but I see no hold time, so this is confusing to me. But anyway, I'll go in just a minute and see them. This is very important that one gets over one's issues, that you just don't say, I can't do that because you're afraid to do that. You're supposed to get over your fear. So here's a time where you have to be real honest, and you have to have a coach that's real honest with you and say, I think that this may not be your path, but I don't think you know what your path is because you're trying to avoid conflict. You're afraid of people. You're doing this, you're doing that. And then get you over it. If something is genuinely not in your best interest, if something is genuinely not the path you should take, it isn't very dramatic. It is for your input, saying that you think I should do something like this. It's me. But before you can get to say something like that, you better damn well make sure you're not motivated by an issue, because issues are to be gotten through. We can fool ourselves so easily. See? Good. All right. Now, let's go on with her next point. Continue to monitor yourself. She goes on to say, if we can keep a behind-the-scenes monitor that remains self-aware at all times, we will be in a position to catch those off moments when we veer away from our authentic selves. Even if we have no time to examine what's going on in the moment, when we have more time. I just think really in the last couple of points, she's missing a big truth here. And that is, what of the things that helps you hold on to who you are in every circumstance, we've talked about in previous shows, which is your values. Do you work from your values, or do you throw them out the window? Okay? I can guarantee that in the story I just told about my friend who was a people pleaser and didn't like conflict, when she talks about her values and her maturity and everything, those things just get thrown right out the window. When a circumstance comes along that she considers a threat, those things go. And of people pleasing. Okay? So, yes, thing about consciousness studies. You will never be finished. You'll never be finished. I've had my client now 20 or 21 years, one of them, and the rest for about 18, because our lives just keep getting better and better and better and better and better. We get deeper and deeper and deeper. We know more and more and more. We can't stop. This is just great. But you have to put some basics in place before you can continue to monitor yourself. Otherwise, it's just so much self-reflection and so much histrionic personality that just spins and spins and spins and tells you you're wrong all the time, and that there's nothing to fix, and you'll never. You see, the fact is, you're a participant in life, or you're not. You're here to be, and you're here to add your authenticity. So the powerful thing to do here is to, I wouldn't even think about anything but, I wouldn't even think about monitoring. I don't even like that word. I don't want to be monitored. I'm going to be self-aware. And I can't stop that, and you can't stop me from doing that. Not that, of course, you would. But I'm putting that on the table for you. You don't go back to being less aware than you are when you are aware. And there's always more to know. That's how fabulous life is. So I think we need to approach our growth not as, oh my God, something's wrong with me and I have to do it, and it becomes a burden, but this incredible privilege of deepening and reinventing and knowing more and being more and more self-aware as life teaches us more and more things. Now, she has another section here which is called Take Authenticity to the Next Level. So Dr. Davis says their next point is strive to improve yourself. I don't like the word strive. It implies a great deal, and consciousness is happening without effort. But you have to have some things in place. You have to be discerning, open. You have to be honest and realize what's an issue. Your inner guidance. You have to know when it's pure and when the ego child's mind is in there adulterating it and giving you an excuse. There's a lot to learn, and I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg at a show like this, okay? But we have to go on this journey of knowing ourselves. I don't like strive to improve yourself. That means something was wrong with you to begin with. Nothing you to begin with. You just have all these devices and lovely little tricks and manipulations now because you have learned them. But I couldn't get you back to your authenticity. You couldn't get back there if it wasn't already there, you see, on a deeper level of you. Well, let me go to this caller and let's see what we can, if we can even bring them in. I find it odd. Hello, my name is Martha Novak, and I'm talking to a 519 exchange. Are you there?
Oh, hi, Martha. Yeah, I was there earlier, but I was just listening in, but I do have a question about what you were talking about with lying.
Yes, can you give me your name, though? What's your first name? Oh, this is Jennifer. Hello, dear heart. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you, Jennifer. Yes, ma'am. For your
Thank you.
question. At least I think I am.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so part of the problem I used to have, and I don't necessarily think I have it anymore, but I want to kind of know what the roots are of it. I don't like lying. People put you in a position, like you said, where you're awkward and on the spot. Mm-hmm. What I've learned is I've inquired, why do you need that information? And sometimes it leads to an interesting conversation. But what I also found is I used to overshare. When people would ask me questions, instead of saying, why do you need that information, I would overshare information.
Right.
What are the roots of oversharing?
You know, Jennifer, what an intelligent question this is, and thank you so much for all this information. Well, let's talk about that. I think that oversharing can have several roots. You know, when there's never just one. For example, I could see someone overshare if they have a very obtrusive mama or dad that tells them they have to share everything with them. If the parent is afraid, and if they trounce over a child's boundaries in an inappropriate way, the child is always going to do that. If the child wanted to to the parents and didn't feel closeness, that's a really good way to do it too. So they would share something, truthful or not, by the way, with a parent, so that you could please a parent. If a parent were completely neglectful and not even in the home, or too busy, or a workaholic or something, you might do that trying to get some modicum of attention. So there are a lot of reasons why you could do that, probably more than just the ones that are coming to mind right now. The fact is, oversharing over anything, by the way, Jennifer, it really does point us in the direction of what happened in our kidhood, you know, because we're doing something that is the same that we did. You'll be better off. I think all of us in our maturity reach a point where we realize, this is interesting, but I shouldn't tell my parent that. And then sometimes when we have created this experience with our parents, you know, we generalize this to other people. So this is the way we have a relationship with our parent. So without even thinking, this is we create the generality with all of the public, or with just men, or with just women, or with a section of society, but it's all based on what we did when we were kids. Is that clear?
It really does, because it makes sense, because you're compensating basically, or trying to do the people pleasing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to do what you think they want.
Yeah, you're trying to get them what they want, but trying to get you what you want. One of the things I want to put on the table, not just for you, Jennifer, but for everybody, because this is the human race, is that we're really never finished with an issue until it's all about us. Because issues are all about us, by the way. I mean, that's just the fact. So we're not just trying to people please them to make them happy, keep them off our backs, or to keep them whatever we feel like we need. But if they are stronger, if they are happier, if they are whatever, we survive. You see, our survival is assured. And that's really what it all comes down to in the end. But this is also what we're talking about when people are adults and they're not manifesting well. We say, well, if you're not manifesting well, how is your energy still being used for survival? And I mean, we have survived, right? We're just not thriving. So we have to go back and say, well, I'm still doing this, which was a survival tactic. And that's, you know, if your energy is still going down that channel, you know, we have to stop that and bring it into present time. You understand?
Absolutely. Thanks, Martha. Can I continue to listen in?
My darling, of course I can leave the line open for you if you'd like. So that'll be just fine. Oh, Jennifer, it's awfully good to see you.
Thank you.
Are you and yours very healthy now? I mean, this coronavirus thing has not come down the pike, and no, or what?
I'm in Canada. It's not too bad here. I was sick in March. I went and ended up having a test, but and I didn't have it. But
Thank God.
I think people are starting to get a little stir crazy.
They are, yeah, you know. Sure, because I have been keeping up with my friends beautifully, so I'm not even sure what I'm stir crazy about. I think just the idea that I can't go anywhere I want, is a problem because our friendships are deep and strong. But oh Lord have mercy, this is just something. It's very funny. Well, darling, remain healthy and well, okay?
Thank you.
All right, darling, and happy Mother's Day to you too. Great questions. All right, moving along. So that's why I'm not real wild about continue to monitor yourself. That sounds dismal to me. I'd rather, there's a point in everybody's progress that I work with where you go along and you're going along, but there is a point where somebody gets so turned on to themselves and to self-awareness and to deeper levels of God in them that they can't put it down. And I work and work and work and push people until that point, at which time it's a freight train going down the track for people. Of that, because then there is no striving to it. This is, and that's always wonderful. So I'm not real wild about strive to improve yourself because and monitor yourself, words like that. And I don't like the idea that we need improvement. We just need to get out of our way. We're doing some things energetically that are not in our best interest that we have learned. And why don't we relearn them? That's really what it's about. Doing something else with that energy. Her next point is listen to your inner guidance or intuition. Some people are more comfortable in this than others. It was very interesting for me in my own journey because when I was 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and this was a time where everybody was taking drugs, and I did not. The reason I never did to do drugs is because I was having all these fantastical experiences in me. Spirit chose to open up my intuition at that time and show me what I could do. So I saw spirits. I was very precognitive. They were really a kind of mind-blowing experiences here. I've since come to find out that is done for you in the very beginning of your life, if you're open to it, and I certainly was, to show you what all those fantastical things happen to me now. Yes, but in a different way. And that is that there's just a quiet knowing inside me. They don't have to have me pick up an airplane crash the day before it goes down, you see. So it's just a quiet knowing that becomes a part of you, and you live your life accordingly. I always kind of like you have an open receiver, and it's just sitting with you all the time, somehow on your shoulder or you're in one ear or something, your earbud, and spirit talks to you through that, whether it's or whoever is talking to you, and it will come in when it's important that it comes in. It's quiet the rest of the time. So it becomes in your maturity a very quiet thing. They're trying to get your attention in the beginning. Now, that's what happened to me. That's what happened to many of you, and that's not what happened to some of you. And I want to say a lot of this has to do with fear, because if you came from an extremely traditional family, if you are fearful avoidant, If you are something like that in the attachment style, you can easily cut this off. It's too weird. It's too scary. It's too much of the unknown. I've always been very curious about the unknown. Still am. But it's very important that your intuition becomes part of you now, because it is part of you. It's part of your intelligence, just like book learning or common sense is part of your intelligence. Intuition is part of your intelligence too. So that it doesn't exist, let me tell you, there's way too much proof to prove to you it does. And it's a very important part of your waking up. Now, the interesting thing is, without even going for it, your intuition wakes up when you study, because what's in your way? Issues, the ego child's mind. That's what's in the way. The closed mind is closed not just to intuition, but to going forward, making a lot of money, doing this, doing that, having ideas that could take you forward in all sorts of ways. So it's real important to address that closed mind in consciousness studies and open it. Oh, I love her last point. Find purpose. I want to tell you, forget it. Here is why I say forget it. Your life purpose comes over a period of time and it comes out of your evolvement. Your evolvement comes out of your experience. Your experience comes out of who you'll let yourself be right now. In other words, when I was younger and I was full of ego and I acted and I taught and I wrote and I did all the things I'm doing now, it wasn't near as good. There was a lot of striving. There was a lot of anger. There were, there was all sorts of things that human beings carry, right? But guys, your life purpose is going with God. When God tells you, you move, you do. Being very clear about it. Now, some people aren't clear. Sometimes we get confused. I've been confused in my life. But I'm also very curious. If there is something that I think I do, it's observe. I did this when I was a little kid, if I'd skin my knee, healing process, what it felt like. I've always been an observer. When I went through emotional turmoil, I observed it. Just observed it. I didn't judge it, didn't try to get out of it. It was just like, well, isn't this interesting? And I would watch it. I do suggest this for you. They call this the witness to your life, or the observer. And it takes you out from the battlefield where you believe everything and you're in mania and a turn and you're floundering, and it puts you as the general on the hill, watching yourself do battle down on the field. Keeps you safe. You're learning a lot because you have an overview. I think that's extremely important for all of us to develop. And to be, you just need to get on the train. What was that marvelous Tom Hanks movie, Polar Express, I think? About, and I remember him saying a line at the end to the little boy, you see, it doesn't matter where the train get on. God has promised you, and it is a true promise, that everything goes for good. What was not said is that it doesn't go for good unless you are in the mindset of that. The rest of the line is for those that love God, okay? Well, an ego, somebody who's full of ego can have a fantasy about God, and that's not really loving God, because nobody knows who you are and who that God is, and it's all made up. Just there as a fantasy to make you feel better. But if you're truly in the energy of sincerity and truth, you do want to cooperate with this energy that's coming out of you. You're told to write that book. You're told to, and we all work. Do it in your off hours. You're gonna work harder. Do it. You've been called. You see? People who heed whatever call is in them have far less trouble in the world. If it's coming from your high, do it. That is a loving self. It's an expression that must. So life purpose is nothing that you just turn on. It's part of an evolvement. Guys, I'm doing everything right now at this point in my life with you and when I'm working with others. It's the culmination of my life so far. The truth is, I'd be dead already if there wasn't something else to learn. I don't know what that is, but I'm going with, and that's what I'm saying. I was an actor in younger days, and then I was a teacher of acting, and then I was a theater and film actor, and then I was a director, and then I went into corporate America and helped everybody bettering themselves and being a coach with business speeches and that kind of thing. And then people started coming up to me and they would say themselves, we know what you're talking about. You're talking about God. You're talking about doing business from the soul. What was I trying to hide by just calling it energy? So here I am, and I'm still writing about these things. My themes in life have always been love and unity and caring about your fellow man and putting some larger principles on the table, understanding them. Hello, Channing. How sweet. Thank you. I offer this to you. This is your life too. Don't look around, find your life purpose. No, just evolve. Go with. Be cooperative. I can't tell you how many people I work with that, how do I want to put this? That they'll sit right in front of me and we'll brainstorm about something in their lives that would make their life something, I can't do that. I can't do that because of this. It's like you haven't even tried it. You can't do this. Oh, I'm not creative. I can't take a writing course. I'm not creative. Oh, I can't do that. Guys, that's not going with. That's resistance. That's not cooperative. And I think cooperation is one of the most spiritual words there is in the world. Cooperation with your highest self, cooperation with your potential and the best you can be. Blows your ego, child's mind issues right out of the water because you can't keep them. And do that. You see? That's why this whole system is so fantastic. And we get to go on, we get to work on ourselves, we get to power past all of these that we thought were incredible limits and thwarts, and they're not. You'll find everything is just a puff of air, and then everything is really perfect. I was talking to a friend yesterday about surrender, the big transition, and in that, certainly when it happened to me, and I've heard that when it happens to other people, and clients have shared with me this, that this is what happens. And I only can talk from my perspective, so let me do that. Something breaks inside of you, a dam that was there, it doesn't just automatically break. It breaks because you've worked on yourself. And either worked on yourself in the ways that we're talking about consciously, or other people have it through physical means, like climbing Everest or something, and being so challenged that they break. All of this happened to me was I saw my life as absolutely the perfect whole. I realized if I died right there in the moment, and it was the ego child's mind death, that it was all perfect, that everything was perfect, and there was not one moment that had not mattered, even if it had given me terrific pain or I'd made a terrible decision, according to me. All led me back to this surrender. And what was interesting is once that happened, you will, and on that level, go back. You will never pick up the past. It's not going to mean anything to you. Oh, it's there. So what? It's okay the way everything works. And God is right there in the midst of it all. In every moment. Used or unused, by the way, by us. So, I do hope that will happen to you at some point. If you'd like to read more about this, you can read it in my book, The Life You Want. I go into a lot of detail about this and how we throw ourselves around and nothing's wrong, real dramatic. And then every single person that has crossed over to this, right, to the deeper levels of consciousness, all say, I don't know why I did that, but everybody in the world does it. So, okay. It's just what we do. So try not to resist. Recognize your resistance. This is your resistance. Remember that. If you are making an excuse for yourself, it's just resistance. You're going to be much happier and make faster progress with cooperation. I found something that I believe one or two of her points were great, and I have taught from this, I know. Hang on just a minute. This is Christine Carter, PhD. She wrote an article called 5 Ways to be Truly Authentic. Is that it? Oh, hang on a sec. Oh, I threw my next sheet away. Silly me. She makes a point here, and I think this is true. Let your body point you for you. At one point, you do reach a clarity, and I think that's extremely important to acknowledge that there's a clarity inside of me. And what we're all trying to do, those of us that do this work, is get you to trust this clarity, the God in and to follow that. Now, that takes some developing. That's not something that's going to be there from the start. Why? Because your ego child's mind's lying to you, and it overtly lies to you. And then, when it sees you can't be stopped on this path, and you got to listen a little harder, right? And go, it's actually saying this to me, and I've got to challenge that. Okay. She also recommends, and I'm just putting this on the table because I think this was such an important point, to stay with what you know. She says your own truth, but I have a problem with it. Stay in what you know and stay out of other people's business. The work to be done is on you, not on somebody else. I think that's so important. Byron Katie, she quotes, and I love this. Byron Katie teaches that there are only 3 kinds of businesses: mine, yours, and God's. Anything out of human control is considered God's business. If we have had, as Jennifer brought up to us, say a parent that has crossed their boundaries way too much as a child, we have crossed our own by people pleasing, for example, when it is against our nature in that moment to do that. it isn't right to do that for us, then we get real confused about these boundaries. And I'm constantly pulling people back in the early and intermediate stages of the work with me from blaming all these people and circumstances and everything, and just seeing what it means to them and what they need to adjust. The problem always goes away then, or resolves in some way. But we have to do the work that we must do. She also goes on to say, accept the ugly bits of yourself, including difficult emotions. Certainly. This is all not about just how great we are. It's about us as and I think in my observation of human beings, sometimes our humanness is the hardest thing we have to accept. The humanness that where we are petty or unloving or unjust or something. That we are, put our arms around it and go on to balance everything out and to be who we really are. And then the other thing I like so much about this article is she quotes the song Anthem that was Leonard Cohen. I love the song. And the refrain is so important for us right now, which is, ring the bells that your perfect offering. There's a everything. That's how the gets in. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just think that's a beautiful quote. Now, you will be not surprised to know that one day I just sat down and I started writing things down that I thought were essential elements of authenticity and how to get there. So, I'm going to read some of those to you, and we'll talk from that. I think it's real important to know your attachment style. I think it's really important to know your I think it's really important to know whatever you test for with DISC or any of these personality tests out there. I think it's really important to know your LCS, which is my program. I think it's really as much as you can about yourself. Now, the interesting thing here is you really have to be your authentic self to test well. Myers-Briggs has a 45 to 65% accuracy rating. That's just about true for every test there is, because if somebody takes it who is trying to disguise himself, they're not going to read well. So you've got to take these tests with an open heart. Nobody's they're free. Why not do so? I think it's really important to read about attachment styles. We've talked about there being 4 of them. The secure attachment style, which, by the way, I don't think anybody is until they work on themselves, quite frankly. Okay. I just don't think those people are that's what we're all aspiring to be, the secure attachment style. We've got dismissive avoidant. We've got fearful avoidant, also called anxious avoidant. And you've also got the fearful preoccupy. Is that right? Fearful preoccupy. I suggest in these attachment styles that you really see which one you are, because there's a list of everything you need to get through in terms of relationships. Okay? It distorts the relationships that you are ready to have. Next, I think it's time to work on your fear. I think it's time to work on all this. It's marvelous that you all are interested in my radio show. I think it's just great. We work remotely. We work with what we're doing is changing the energy. Oh yeah, we find some words that thrill your brain. Yay! You know, that you see what you're working on and how you've wired yourself and convoluted, and we uncover all that. That's great. Is that the only thing we uncovered? No. We're just finding the words for it. There are deep, deep, deep changes. When you start working with energy, and you start pulling out one thread of energy and replacing it with another. Wow, I mean, system. And it's so exciting to see the results of this. Um, Sometimes when we have been working on one thing, you find in the workplace, oh my God, I actually uh, a month ago. I've even had the experience years and years ago of turning around wanting to see if there was someone behind me, knowing fully well it came out of my mouth, and there was nobody behind me at all. So this changes things. Fundamentally, it's marvelous. You change the energy, it's a very loving way to work on yourself. Now, version of it, and I say, go on and for God's sake investigate this and get some help for these things. And one of the reasons that I've also put out books and CDs and DVDs and go see all those things is that they support your journey until you can work with someone. And I think that's a really important thing for you to do, is to have that support. I want you to understand there are deep convolutions of energy that result in conflicting thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and you don't understand them. And the ego child's mind really wants to keep them hidden. The ego child's mind tells you that your limitations are the only reason you're alive, and those limitations were imposed by the child's mind. These things are need to deepen and grow and to lovingly find out what is true in you. I do. What a great privilege. Okay. And we want you to learn to be keenly self-aware. What stops us a lot of times is that we are unaware of what we're. Another thing that stops us, avoidant. We'll do that tomorrow if we do it at all. I see no value in that. Judging on the surface instead of looking deeper and seeing what the problems really are and that there are solutions for those things. As you go on a journey, it's a spiral. I mean, all spiritual, that's been the symbol for spirituality for a long time. It's because one thing is under another thing. It reveals, kind of like the layers of an onion, right? It smells a lot better though. Easy, I like onions. You have to on the journey to find the revelations along the way, and there are plenty of them. And I think probably they're endless. As I said, you've even had little revelation throughout this quarantine, and that's marvelous. More ways to know oneself, right? Self-talk, we can't ignore, avoid, dismiss, deny any of this any longer. And I do feel very strongly that everything that's happening in the world right now and will come, because there's going to be more of this kind of, there's going to be more things to adapt to, more things to adjust to. You're going to be much more flexible and adaptable. We can go on this journey and know what really is, if you can rely on who you are and trust your feelings and what you think about all this and more. And I think that adaptability and flexibility are going to be real important characteristics to have. The next point I want to make here is be willing to learn. Another way of saying, let yourself evolve. What stops us? Well, insecurity, avoidance, many things will stop us. People pleasing, like we talked about earlier. Sometimes we feel we have to know everything and for us to move forward. It's as if we want a guarantee from God. But that's really a selective the car, and most of you don't know how that works. You turn on your television, most of you don't know how that works. There are many things that we do, and we don't know how it works. We just do it, right? So why not this? Why not go into the unknown, trusting that God is there and see what's there for you? Change, evolve. Most of us are really afraid to change. We've learned that change is some sort of dirty word from our childhood, and it's not. It's the movement of God. If a door closes, God's just saying, well, go to another door, go to another window, go up the chimney, do anything else. Find a clever way to open that door. You see? But we are in our child's minds say that just means no, and I can't do it. No is, there is no, really. There's being cleverer, there's being more creative. And that's you, or you wouldn't be listening to a show like this. Good. Really important. Realize there's nothing wrong with you, you're just in your own way. Really. So, to that end, learn new things, reach for new teachers, up to a work in process attitude about yourself. Pat yourself on the back when you've done something good, but not in an egotistical manner, which is all about you. It's like, the gratitude of all of your life experiences that have brought you here, and your mentors and your guides, and what life teaches us. It's a lot to be appreciated here. Next, do discover those values. I have said in the past, go and all over the internet, if you look for value sheet, find one that has lots of words, choose 3. Apply those 3 values in every easy and how hard. Realize when you're in a boundary and when you have given up one of those values, because you're going to feel really bad about what happens. And you go back and you go, okay, I feel really bad about what happens. So Martha says, I probably crossed one of my values. And you look at that and you go, I didn't cross one of my values. I crossed all 3 of them. Don't choose values based on what you want to be. Choose them about what you are right now. Then add 2 more. Then add 2 more. Then add 2 more. Ultimately, consciousness is a really wonderful exercise. And I think holding on to your values in every situation, no matter what, is just a great tool to secure you to the inner water when you feel a threat. You stay with what you're trying to do. Yeah? Good. Okay. The interesting thing I do want you to know, to do with, I don't know why I tacked that onto that paragraph, but when we're talking about that there is know about you psychologically, one of the things I want you to know is that human beings make bad things good and good things bad so we can keep doing our issues. So all of a sudden I'm saying evolve, learn something, think outside the box, do whatever, and you're going, oh, that's bad. I need to keep doing it than I ever have and work harder, instead of the other way, which is working smarter. That's a silly little example. I've given other better examples in other radio shows, but think about that. We make bad things good and good things bad. Look at your own lives and see if you've done that in this aspect or that. We don't do it right across the board, but we do that when we are in avoidance. We'll make bad things bad. All right, moving along. The big thing is cooperation. I want to go back to that. Be willing to see and go where your God is. Don't knock it down. I've just written my first fiction book. I really like it. Not ready to be seen yet. I'm still working on it, but I think it's shaping up pretty well. And I had to write this book. It has a lot of spiritual principles in it, but in a different way. I had to write this book. Don't ask me why. One day I had to do it. So if I had sat down and said, well, I don't have any place to sell this book. I don't know who I'll give this to. Who will buy this book? I had to write the book. We'll figure out the rest as we go. But I had to write this. Now, guys, there's something you're being called to too, probably. If not, it's going to happen to you. Cooperate. Let an edge of change. So 3 years ago, we moved to a little remote area. And I had to do all my clients remotely on Skype, teach over Skype. All of a sudden, well, here we are. We can't see people face to face. I was protected. I'm doing the same thing that I was doing before. That doesn't mean I don't have a great deal of sympathy and caring for all of you whose lives are incredibly disrupted and financially challenged. I'm saying that listen to you. Listen to the messages that you're given, because this energy that we call God keeps you on the cutting edge of change, but you have to move when it tells you to move. You have to do what it tells you to do. In other words, you have to cooperate. So if you are afraid, those things need to be addressed now before you call to the next thing. You see? Good. The next point, we have 8 minutes. Look at that. I don't know where the time goes, do you? You probably do. You're probably saying, when is lunch? But not me. I love these points, I guess. The next point is certainly confront your limitations, false beliefs that you swear are true, by the way. Old ideas, irrationality, all those things in your life that caused you to react in a way. By the way, there'll be a pattern there. Somebody listens to your life story and says, well, you got a pattern here, a pattern here, a pattern here, a pattern here. Let's go and look at all of that in more detail and get it. Many times you notice odd reactions in your life and you don't understand it and you can't find the answer to it because you're not there to find the answers. Part of you maybe doesn't want to. And because why? Because it wouldn't make you change if you saw it. And if your ego child's mind is really strong, it doesn't want you to change. It equates change equals bad. It certainly isn't. But we shelve whatever it is that where it was odd, our reactions that we're ashamed of. And we're shamed rather than saying, I did this, let's get it out, let's go on, come on. Let's find the answer to this and resolve it. Sweetie, we're all human beings and we do all the things that human beings do. So what? If we're growing and learning and changing and cooperating, your life is going to get better. And you will embrace the whole human that you are. And you'll choose the way because it feels better and you know how it all works. Let's go there. So now's the time, really, I think, really, with the world changing like it is, I think we all better step up and find out the answers to us. Now, the next point here is to grow from the false identifications or over-identifications or sympathies or over-sympathies, any old limiting definitions of self. I'm still the little Ohio farm girl that was who was stupid. That was something that someone came up with at one point. I'm still the little Ohio farm girl that's stupid. And her life is very tiny because of that belief. So that's gone. The roles we've played too that no longer serve us, the role of people pleaser, the role of submissive partner, the role of dependent child to our husbands or to our wives. What roles are you playing that honestly should be put to rest now? Okay. Hello, Ben. I'm so glad that you're with us today. Thank you so much for watching. Our next point is we have to be willing to see and experience things we never have seen and experienced before, to have an open mind. All of us that are in this work know we have to have an open mind. We say, I have an open mind, but we don't. And the way we can see it is when anything out there in the world, anything that affects us, anything where our isn't just the way we want it, life, we will have a meltdown. That's not open. And life itself reveals our closedness, and we must realize what it is and open it. So many of our ego child's minds, they like control. They like to manage life instead of live it all the way. I think that's to be challenged now. If you're going to be really happy, the only way is through being a full participant in your life right now, in every gifts and abilities, lovingness and wisdom, and going for it, having fun the whole time. Do not be goal-oriented. Don't rush to outcomes. Learn along the way. Enjoy. And serve yourself and others. Oh my, 2 minutes left. We better stop here and say we'll take this up where we left off next week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening, all of you. It means the world to me that you listen every week. All our shows are archived on Blog Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube. We are now currently trying to find a system whereby we can increase our. I've found, I think, something that will work real well. Here's the rub. It's satellite, so when it's raining and cloudy, which it often is up here, we're in a rainforest, it will go down. And we will have to mount a show that is pre-recorded, but not necessarily about the subject that I'm talking about. Oh, there's a good and bad to everything, isn't it? You gotta laugh.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Gotta laugh. Guys, thank you so much for listening and for, by the way, getting the word around about our shows if you enjoy them. We really appreciate it so much. We're trying to grow the community quite large. So if you can just get us out and tell people about us and send us around to social media, that would be. Do a quick prayer to end this. And thank you for liking us and sharing us and all the things you're doing.
60 seconds.
Dear God, we ask that you now enter this whole show in the arena, that we are resonant with it from inside, and that we offer to our highest selves our issues that we're willing to let go of, that they may be transmuted into deeper levels of love and wisdom and contribution. We thank you for this with all our hearts. And we say this in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every person listening to the show. Thank you. And so it is. Guys, see you next week, and we'll pick up where we left off, okay? All right. Take care of yourselves now.
10 seconds.
Woo! Website is marthanovak.com. You can reach me through there. Bye-bye. Take care and stay well.